Welcome to Grade 1 View, the podcast for future CRNAs by future CRNAs, a partnership between AANA and Beyond the Mask.
Whether you're about to graduate from a nurse anesthesia program, trying to get accepted to nursing school, or you're somewhere in between.
This podcast is a resource and safe space for all things nurse anesthesia.
We're your Season 2 host team. I'm Levi Davis.
I'm Kelsey Muir.
I'm Mackenzie Lane.
And I'm Nicholas Alexander. So grab your Mac or your Miller, turn up your flows, and get ready, because this is Grade 1 View.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Grade 1 View, where we bring you real conversations from residents for residents. Today, I have the honor of doing a special crossover episode with Airway Exchange, our sister podcast from Beyond the Mask. And we're coming to you right from Pennsylvania Avenue, right here in Washington, D.C., at the AANA Mid-Year Assembly. I'm so excited to be sitting here in D.C. in person with the Dr. Greg Collins and the Dr. Nickie Damico, leaders in anesthesia practice and education. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much. I can't believe that introduction almost made me stand up and clap, just so you know.
Dramatic, love it.
Yes, yes. Today we're going to be talking about what actually matters as you move from being a student to stepping into the role of a CRNA, and also how advocacy and education play into that journey. So I feel like it would be an injustice if we didn't talk about why we're here in DC. So let's start there. Mid-Year Assembly, I'm a first-timer. What about you guys?
Okay, so this is not my first time. It is probably my fifth or sixth time to mid-year, but definitely one of the most special meetings that AANA offers. It has such a unique flair to it. This one is just a unique opportunity for us to engage with people that don't often go to other meetings. We see a different crowd here. Obviously the board members, obviously some of the leaders in our association, but we see in particular this year a lot more residents at this meeting than at others. We have a lot more close contact with them, smaller overall attendance, but just such a different crowd and such a more intimate feel to it. And then, of course, the content and programming is completely unique relative to the other things. So I think of all of the meetings that AANA offers that I go to, and of course, the educators meeting is right on point for those of us whose full-time job is education. This one is the one that pumps you up the most. It is the one that you walk away from and feel like, man, I'm so excited to be a CRNA.
I like that. You can definitely feel the energy here. It's definitely different.
So obviously not my first time here either. I think I'm approaching double digits. I've honestly lost count. I'd have to go back and look at a photo record of my attendance here. However, some of the photos would not be in my phone, obviously. I've been attending that long. And I agree with Nickie. I think it's one of my favorite times of the year, really, in terms of comparing our three big meetings that we have at AANA. While EDGE is very directed, very focused on educators, it's usually just educators at EDGE. This is one of the AANA meetings, unlike Congress, which is a good time all in of itself, but this is all of us together. We have both residents and practicing CRNAs, but also our new APRN, RN affiliate members, and we're all directed at a very single focus. And I think that's what makes the energy a little bit different at Mid-Year Assembly. You don't hear technical terms of anesthesia, of the practice of anesthesia brought up here, but yet we're all on the same page and we all seem very enthusiastic. And I think it's the love of our career and understanding what goes into the practice, but also the protection of that practice. And it gives us good focus and, allows us to get here, share our stories, and also spend time with one another. That's always the best part of all the AANA meetings is networking and spending time with one another. This is just another good opportunity to do that.
I like that. I mean, like I was saying, the energy here is just, it's totally different, and you're not learning like the didactic things. You're not having those kind of sessions here. One thing I did want to point out that Dr. Collins mentioned was like the RN and the APRN. There was a whole like meetup upstairs. I saw a sign, they had a huge meetup. So like there's even a turnout with our associates and people that are aspiring to be here, just like the other conferences.
I bet we have a lot of listeners from that category to your podcast, and so I'm glad we're bringing them up.
Yes.
I will say, honestly, I think that's one of the better things that AANA has done over the last several years is the creation of that. It, I think, lights a fire under them early, connects them to the AANA. one of the biggest membership groups in terms of demographics that we lose in terms of AANA membership is the 0 to 5 years of practice. I feel like that this is really going to help bridge that and close that gap a little bit. Once they attend one of these meetings and get to see the energy that we've talked about, get to network with the people that we've spoken of, they're going to stay connected. I think that's just great for our future. They will be residents, and then they will be CRNA members, and I'm excited to see how that progresses.
Should programs expect, or do your programs require advocacy exposure?
We do as part of our policy course, but we have to give a lot of flexibility into what that can be and give a lot of different opportunities and put them out there for them. So I happen to be based out of our Richmond program site. We have our state capitol right there. So there are a lot of local opportunities to actually be involved in the process, attend General Assembly meetings and so forth. We do not currently require a specific meeting or a specific advocacy opportunity, but we just continually make them available. And then we also say you have to do that in order to meet the requirements for a course because, residents are like the rest of us. You have to have some sort of incentive. Otherwise, you're trying to prioritize a lot of different things. And it is very, very difficult, but just increasingly emphasize and then showing up ourselves. I think that's one of the strongest ways that we as educators can help encourage and get our residents to be there is to be there ourselves.
I agree with that. My program requires us to have one state meeting and one national meeting. It's in our handbook. It's a part of our, it's not a part of a certain class, but it's a part of our graduation requirements.
Yeah, and we do the same. We have it, and it's funny you mention the handbook because we go over that handbook on day one. And there's a lot of grunting and groaning when we mention that you have to attend either a state or national meeting. And then after we talk to those residents, after they've attended one of those meetings, they say, I wish I could have gone to all of them. And so we do have, some ways of funding that to help them out where it's not a complete expense. We have the luxury to have those resources. But as I mentioned before, I think as much as you talk in the classroom about things like advocacy and policy, even things that are completely more abstract, just about networking with your peers and developing relationships within the nurse anesthesia community, that's very difficult to get across until they see that and they experience that. I still have people that I communicate with today that I met at one of these meetings as a resident. And so I think that even telling those stories, it's not real until they get here and do that themselves.
So how do you, as faculty members, support your students? We're so overloaded with didactic and clinical 40 hours a week at some points during our programs. How do you support your students coming to these? It takes a lot. A week of a resident's life is years.
Of course. Well, I think that we have to make sure, obviously, that they're in good academic standing or in good clinical standing, which is usually not a concern. The ones that are interested in attending these are typically the residents that are going to be in that category. But we also give them a little bit of grace in terms of travel days and things like that to make sure that they have the ability to attend and not feel like that they're missing out and rushing back. And honestly, but kind of behind the scenes here, we do a good check-in on them, particularly those that are senior residents now for this meeting or for the meeting in August in Boston. We're going to make sure that their case numbers are adequate, that they're not going to miss time that may set them back in the future, that it's going to make them work harder or make them provide undue stress by allowing them to attend the meeting. And so we do that a little bit behind the scenes. And, honestly, we don't identify gaps there. Almost everybody that's interested, they're going to be in good academic or good clinical standing.
We've also started really stressing the importance of thinking that whole 36 months. I think that often residents are a little hesitant to go at first, and so they weren't going early on. They didn't see what it was, didn't see the value of it, didn't appreciate that, and so they were waiting until the last year. Well, in your last year, that might not be the best time.
It's crunch time. Yeah.
Any particular meeting, and you are really at the wire. You really have to get those last case numbers in. We are never going to prioritize attendance at a meeting over getting your specialty numbers. Like, do you want to graduate on time or do you want to go to the AANA Congress? That's not a pair up that we're ever going to, we know who wins in that situation every single time. So just trying to also stress the importance of it's a 36-month program. And if you consider all of the state level meetings, and we encourage them, we happen to be in a program where we're bordered. Our program sites are on the borders of the state. So there's a lot of Tennessee, Kentucky, Maryland, DC, like a lot of other. So if you count all of those meetings collectively across those, there's so many opportunities. If we just promote them and make sure they know about them, there's a lot of them are on Saturdays. So it can happen.
Right.
And we make time for things we value. So if they see them early, they see the value of it, and then they're naturally drawn to go back to it again.
So switching gears. So let's talk about the beautiful moment, the residents' release from the grip of you faculty members. That gap between being a resident and stepping into that dream job with those 4 beautiful letters, CRNA. What is the biggest mindset shift from resident to CRNA?
Well, interesting you bring that up. We had a group of our graduates that finished last December. Several of them came to work at the facility at which I work clinically. And I got to see 2 or 3 of them on their first day on the job. And, of course, they were deer in the headlights. And I worked another shift later in the week. And one of the now CRNA graduates that I had spent a lot of time with, I was very close to when he was in our program, called me and said, there's an epidural that needs to be done in a certain room. And I said, okay. He's like, are you going to come down here with me to do the epidural? And I looked at him and I said, I'm not sure that that's the way this works anymore. And he said, I know of it. I just can't break out of that cycle and that habit. And I assured him that he had done more epidurals than I had in the last 18 months, and that patient would much rather have him in that room than me doing that epidural. And after he came out of the room, I talked to him, and he said, it's just the continuous need to feel like you have to be doing and you have to be learning. And I counsel them not to lose that, obviously, but also realize where you are. I think you have to realize where you're, the adage about look down and see where your feet are standing, and that's a great thing to do. Now, what that is particularly whether it's a change in your psyche or a change in just your habits. I would say habits more than psyche. All of you guys are prepared to make that entrance, but you're so habitually dependent on someone looking over your shoulder that I think you look for that, and it may be security is probably the best word that I can think of there. It may be for that, but it's that pull away that they have to make. And I don't know, Nickie, maybe you can talk a little bit more about what exactly that is and why that's such a strong pull.
I don't know if I can bring any more clarity to it. I see the same thing. I would say, I'm not sure how folks are going to feel about me saying this part, but that last 3 months, at least, like the last semester, last 3 months of your programs, we've all had enough. I mean, it gets to the point we feel it's palpable. Our residents are ready to graduate. They're they're exhausted, and they're just like, it's definitely exhaustion. It's definitely, I'm tired of having to do this. I'm tired of being a resident. I want to be out there and be on my own. And so this whole sort of like, frustration, and we feel it, we know it, we're like, okay, let's get through this graduation, get the thing, and then all of a sudden when that finishes and you're done, and of course most now are taking their NCE either like right before graduation or soon after, and that's great, and then there's this long lengthy period of time somewhere between 2 and 4, sometimes 5 months. Something happens in that transition, and then that first day in the OR, everything is different. It's so, just radically changed. And it is that sudden sense of insecurity that I don't have somebody right behind me. We're still there behind you. We're just in spirit, not in person.
A phone call away.
Yeah, just a phone call away. And I do love getting those new phone calls. But just this sudden humility. It is a sudden appreciation of, wow, I really did need to know all of that stuff. The NCE was that hard. And now they're rested and the stress of it all is done. And then it's more, we're colleagues and we can really, and we all remember, I vividly remember it was in the year 2000, and I have vivid memories of that first few months.
I bet.
After graduating. It's so tough. It's the hardest part of it all. And then you have the doubts of, what did I do? Like, oh my goodness. And it's wonderful. It's horrifying at the same time. You're scared, but it's a sudden change to colleagues, and you're now a part of this whole group of people, and everybody around you is there to support you from a distance.
Right.
Because the worst thing we can do is go and do that epidural with you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. You got to fly.
Fly, bird,
we got
fly.
to boot you out of the nest.
Yeah. I feel like it's a balance between confidence versus competence. And that's kind of what we're feeling. So I started looking it up, deep dove, and I actually had a friend tell me about the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
One of my
we have.
favorites.
Yes. So it's like the early learner's overconfident, gets burned. Now they're mid-training, they're humbled. And then now they're getting that experience and they're more confident, but they're cautious with it. So do you feel like new grads come out of the gate like that? Like just overly confident? Or
not
do you
at
think the
all.
overly confidence more at the end of your senior year? You're like, get me out of here, and then you're
That's
humbled?
probably it. In fact, there used to be some closed claims data that suggested that the lowest incidence of malpractice in a CRNA's career was in the first 5 years of practice. So that tells you that somebody that's much more seasoned is likely to make a mistake. Now, confidence, don't mistake confidence with vigilance. You're overly vigilant at that point in your first 5 years of practice, and that's exactly what keeps you out of trouble in the operating room. That's what we lose, and I'm looking at Nickie, as we grow and we get more time under our belt, we lose that vigilance, and it's something that I always have to remind myself to maintain. But you guys, as new graduates, are vigilant not only, obviously, of the patient and what's going on with the patient, but also of your surroundings and who's looking at me and who's judging me and who's doing this. That can get in the way of the patient sometimes, and that may be some of the struggles that you've heard from new grads, is that they are used to paying more attention to the room than the patient. And once you realize that you can pay attention to the patient and do your job, you're very well equipped, you're very well trained, much more so beyond the point that you feel like you are. I hate the word imposter syndrome, really. I think it's a little bit overused in this particular circumstance, but that feeling of maybe knowing that you're prepared, but not feeling the ability to go out and do that. I will say, for those people in that situation that are still listening, there's one thing that makes that not completely better, but a lot better, and that's your first paycheck.
Oh, I bet. Oh, my
Amen.
gosh. I am so excited. It's going to come like right around this time next year. It'll be so great. To follow up on that, new grads pushing themselves and being worried that they're going to be deemed incompetent if they call for help. There's a very fine line there, like when a new grad should be like, hey, I need some help. Or are they going to ream me because I'm asking for help at this point? Like, how hot is the temperature going to get before I'm calling, or am I going to get burned? I feel like that's a concern as well.
It's definitely a big concern, and it's definitely one of the skills you have to figure out, because it is a thing for those who are your mentors as you're getting into. We want you to know when to call and when not to call. Don't call me every 30 minutes. If I'm your
Right.
chief CRNA, I'm like, okay, let's talk about, and I think it's just having a supportive environment where just accept that you are going to be new to this. You are going to sometimes fail to call when you should have alerted another person to come. In our case, it was always a CRNA. We were frequently calling other CRNAs to come in and bail us out. But knowing when to do that, and then maybe when it's okay, let me try a couple things, like just take a big breath, think through this. I've got this, and then not call. But you're going to make an error on one way or the other. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get it right and wrong sometimes, and then just that you learn from that right. you take something away from it is
as cliche as it sounds. Like when you fail, like you learn more. Like
certainly.
I've already been burned multiple times. I'm like,
well, and I would suggest too, Levi, particularly at the stage that you're at right now, as you begin looking for jobs. One of the things, and I counsel all of my late residents nearing graduation about this when they're in job hunting mode, that of all the things that you have to look at in terms of salary and benefits and schedule, one of the things that gets overlooked is culture. And you should be able to practice. Your first job needs to be, I always get the question too of do I need to work in an academic center right off the bat? Do I need to work in a trauma center? Can I go work in an ASC? Can I do this? Can I do that? And my answer is always, worry less about the cases and more about the culture. You should have a culture in your first job. You should seek a culture in your first job where it's okay to ask for help. And when you do ask for help, you're going to get help, and no one's going to judge you for doing that. Now, what they might do is say, hey, you did this just fine. Next time you're going to be great. But it shouldn't be, you mentioned that somebody's going to get upset maybe because you're calling too much for help. That's a culture problem at that institution. And so make sure that when you're looking for those first jobs that you're identifying that. Those are, I say that very casually, but that's one of the most difficult things to identify. And you identify that by speaking to CRNAs that are in their first year of practice at that facility. That's about the only way you can do that, and insist that they're honest with you about that.
I had one of our faculty members, I'll shout her out, Dr. Sarah Connor. She's a newer faculty member, and she told us when we were having these talks to, whenever you're interviewing and you're walking through facilities, to walk in the break room. And she said, you will learn so much information by just sitting in the break room at some places and hearing what they say. So
sage advice.
Indeed.
Yeah, I thought it was really good advice. So good job, Dr. Connor. So you've both chosen to go into education, kind of switching to more of like the student-faculty relationship. You've both chosen to go into education. Both of you even returned to the place that traumatized you and like put you back in that role, but in an educator. Why did you go back to that?
I was a longtime clinical educator for our program, so I spent a lot of time and started to realize over time that increasingly that was the piece of the job that I was most energized by. And then some of it was the TAP that we've talked on Airway Exchange a lot about, which was another educator who I had enormous respect for, who identified and said, we're hiring and I think you'd be great for this. So I did have an idea. I knew when I was in school, I had the opportunity to serve on the Council on Accreditation as we called them students back then. I was the student rep to the Council on Accreditation. And I remember being in the room of these, Sandra Kildee and these just, again, another Mount Rushmore CRNAs who were there. And they were so fun and, professional, but such hard workers and all of that. So just seeing that piece, I was like, they are the smartest CRNAs I've ever met. And they are so dedicated to this and what they do. I want to be that educator. And I knew I wanted to continue my education. I had a master's degree. And so as we were shifting to the doctorate, I knew I wanted to go back and get my PhD. That was my particular path. So it was kind of just serendipity. I noticed I was around 40, so reaching a milestone birthday and starting to think, all right, who am I? What am I doing with my life? And I'm like, what am I most energized? When am I the happiest day to day? And it was when I was teaching. Okay, that's telling me something right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a signal.
Thank you for sharing that, Nickie. My story is extraordinarily similar. I always stayed connected to the university and to the program through being a clinical educator. Was able to go back and get a postmaster's D&P. Did so with funding from the university from being a clinical coordinator. However, did so too thinking that this is in my future at some point. Like I need to get the credential to be able to return. The true, I guess, tap moment for me came, I was having a discussion with one of my mentors and now fellow faculty members who, every time I was around this guy, he's one of my best friends, and every time I was around him, he talked about how good his job was. And I finally got tired of hearing about that, to be honest with you, because I was telling him about how not good some of my things were, particularly the nights and weekends I was working. And this was not what swayed me in that direction. But he said, it's been a really long time since I've given an anesthetic when the sun's down or on a weekend or on a holiday. While that was attractive, that was not the thing that eventually pushed me in that direction. I told him at one point, I was telling a story about connecting networking with somebody that needed something about nurse anesthesia. And I have connections and I have a pretty vast network. And I always like putting people together and helping them out. The lift you get from the person who you're helping, but also the lift you get from the person you connected them to. I told him, I said, this is the favorite part of my job. I really like connecting these people. And he looked at me, I'm sure, over an adult beverage and said, I get to do that 70 times a day with the 70 people in our cohort. And that sold me. I immediately thought, how do I get there and what can I do to get there? And I'm just finishing my 5th year in education. And it's been all of that plus a whole lot more. And so I wish that I would have made that decision on my 40th birthday. I waited a little bit longer, but I'm here now and I'm not going anywhere. So okay. I think that's important.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you both for sharing that. What do students not understand about faculty?
How much we truly do care. Like everything we do is with their best interest in mind. I think they don't always see that. I think it's just easy to be, very focused on what's in front of you and what you're doing and what you think the road ahead is and just busy. You're just busy as a resident. And so I don't think they always see the side of our faculty. And I'm a little bit more of an administrator now than at the podium. I'm still at the podium, but not as much as I used to be. So I think in particular of our podium faculty, those who are actually in the sim lab and teaching, so much of that comes across as a little more stern or a little more like the enforcer, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know that they always see the behind the scenes of how much and how deeply we want them to be successful. I mean, I hire these people. I know for sure it's a primary characteristic I look for in faculty is their values. Do they truly value these learners and value the idea that we need to make them exceptional CRNAs? We just wouldn't have people involved in education if they didn't have that in mind. And I don't know that that's always evident. I think there's inherently some sense of...
Yeah, it comes with the role and the position. Yeah.
We do have to be stern. We do have
Right.
to uphold standards. We do have
Right.
to, enforce rules and such. And so I think in the midst of doing that, you come across, I guess, more of the bad cop versus the truly caring person that I know these people to be.
You don't hate us. We're like, oh my
We
gosh,
do
they
not.
hate us.
We do not.
I completely agree. I think that ability for you guys to see how tied in we are to your success, and not just on paper. I always joke that the two favorite days for me in a year are graduation and the date that I get all the NCE results back. Those are the two favorite. And sometimes it's one of those is number one and one of those is number two, but it's always about success. And that benchmark that we have out there, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, I think being able to see that and then hear from that student or that now graduate that they've made it there, gosh, there's just no better feeling in the world. Also want to say that what I really believe that you guys would like to hear more is, or maybe that you don't hear enough, is that we are human, just like you are, and the struggles that you have, we have struggles like that as well. Different struggles. Nickie and I have both mentioned mentors that we've had here that we really had a lot of respect for, and also the reasons why we went in that direction to education. And if you would have asked me at the time if those people ever did anything wrong, I would have said there's no way. They're absolutely perfect educators, perfect nurse anesthetists, and perfect human beings. But then I got to know them and realized that wasn't the case. And so one of the things I try to do, and I allow myself to make mistakes, not purposefully, but I allow myself to make mistakes. And then I let everybody know that's sitting in the classroom that was a mistake. And I'll correct it, and I won't do that again. And, man, that connects. That seems to really connect and allow people to know that you're human. And, if I promise to get something posted in our learning platform by a certain time and I'm 2 hours late, that wasn't because I didn't want to get it done. That's because I'm human and had a lot of other stuff going on, and I apologize and let them know that I'm human. I have a lot going on, and so do you. And so I think that makes a little more, creates a little bit better relationship and a little bit better culture in terms of we don't have to be perfect. We have to work hard, and we have to all want the same thing. And if we do that, then we're going to be successful.
Okay. Yeah, the whole time Dr. Damico was talking, that's all I was thinking was human. You're a human. And so it's great that you followed up with just humanity between both roles.
Very true.
But
Very
there's
true.
guidelines and lanes that we all have to stay in. So one more question about this. Evaluations. I know you guys feel very, very, very touched with your evaluations. I listened to your episode on that. I thought it was
Course evaluation.
Course evaluations.
Yes, course
Oh,
evaluations.
you listened to our episode.
Oh, yeah.
One of our favorite topics, by the way, Levi. Thank
I
you
know,
for bringing this up.
I know.
Okay, I just have to bring something up here because today at Mid-Year, we had a speaker, Dr. Sabato, Larry Sabato, who's a professor at UVA. He's been there for, as he would say, 100 years, not really 100 years. But this man who has this resume ceiling to floor. I mean, he is an accomplished man, and he fretted about course evaluations. You talked about that at the podium today, and I was like,
it's never ending.
oh, we're never going to get past it.
Again, these guys are humans, and they do have feelings.
Yes, we do.
Because I don't know how many times I've heard classmates say, I'm tearing them up on this evaluation and things like that. And I'm like, okay, but what is a good feedback for you that would be in a negative sense that a student has given you before, but it was actually, okay, I can change something?
Well, I think that the way that I approach, we call them students' perception of teaching or spot exams at TCU. And I just got the email in my inbox earlier today that those are coming up for the end of the semester. And so I always have this little twang of anxiety when that happens. And one of my mentors told me early on, as I was looking through my first semester, mostly negative comments and some really good ones. And of course, I pointed out to him as I was going through my evaluations with him that I had some really good comments. And he said, well, my word of advice to you is if you believe the really good comments, then you also have to believe the really bad comments. And also the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I think my advice to our listeners when you're filling those things out is be honest, be specific. I really appreciate a comment that says, in this PowerPoint on this subject, you presented this in this manner and it didn't make sense to me. Maybe consider reworking that. That I love, even if it's negative, and they can throw any superlative or any bad word in there they want to, but if it's negative and it's specific, I take that to heart. If it's just in general, they don't like my personality, they don't like the jokes I tell, that's a little less of a concern to me, but I really pay attention to those specifics. So be honest and be specific. That would be my advice, is filling one of those out. If there's something that you didn't like, let them know exactly what it is. Don't address it to the person, address it to the product, and make sure that you address exactly what it is you don't like, because I've made numerous changes in my classroom content based on those evaluations, and I take them very honestly. And also, I have a really good conversation, and I will in class this week. When those open up, I have a conversation about, here's what I want to know. And doing so, I think I really get better, more pertinent feedback. I still get the negatives, and I still get the overly positives. Not that I don't pay attention to those, but I really pay attention to the ones that are specific. And that to me tells me that someone's engaged, someone cares, but more than anything else, they care about not their cohort or not their performance, because that's in the past. We're evaluating the semester posthumously, if you will, but what we do next time into the cohort behind them. If they take the opportunity and the energy to do that, that suggests that that's something that I really need to look at.
I would agree 100%. I would say first and foremost, do the evaluations. Unfortunately, the circumstance is that, let's say, Levi, you do your evaluations, we might make a lot of changes in response to your feedback, but you won't see it. So I do hear a lot of, well, they don't do anything about this. Well, we do, but you're already moved on before you would have seen it, and there's the feedback a lot of folks. So do them. They're so important. We all...
Oh, yeah, they stress so much about them.
Offer to them to come back and repeat the course if they would like to see the change.
Yes, but I do think, I mean, we're struggling a little bit with needing to do a lot of reminders to say, please fill them out. We absolutely need and want them. I mean, this is how we make changes that are meaningful. And then I would add to the things that Greg said that I agree with, but also make sure that what you're asking for is something that is actually doable, like it's actionable. Make a suggestion that is something that the person can change. I doubt he can change his style of jokes. That's him. He's going to do that.
I've tried. You know that all too well at this point.
If your kids can't get you to change they just, those kinds of things, personality traits, if you don't like the person, we can't do anything about that. But if it's something that is truly actionable, if you're making a suggestion that is specific, it is about a particular part of the class, and it is a suggestion that they can actually do, great. That's perfect. Those are the things we want to hear.
Thank you both for sharing about all of that. So now we're going to put the pressure on. So
that wasn't
grade
pressure?
One view, yeah, that was
the
not
evaluations?
Pressure. No, you have no
Fantastic.
idea. So on grade one view, we've kind of branded it to be our own thing. So my soundboard, bow, bow, bow. It's time for rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So it's going to be just short answers, first thing that kind of comes to your mind, and I'm just going to start listing questions off. And you both can take turns going first, or however you want to do it.
Nickie volunteered to go first.
I knew you were going to do that. I wasn't fast enough on the draw.
What's the hill you'll die on as a faculty member?
The hill I will die on. I mean, the advice I give all of is you can have it all, but not at the same time. So you have to think about what's your priority at that moment. So I stand behind that advice, I guess. On the hill I would die on. I will die on this hill. Academic integrity is everything.
There we go.
We are all about academic integrity. And when it comes to questions of academic integrity, I am unwavering. No question. I'm going to stand behind that every time.
Classroom attendance is mandatory. That's a hill I'll die on, because we've talked about already in this podcast how networking is important and how we rely on people and peers to further our career, and you can't learn that sitting at home. And so that's something that I will always, always, always suggest. And you don't have that opportunity when you're working or when you're in your clinical rotation, so it shouldn't be different in the classroom.
What do students overcomplicate?
Is everything appropriate?
I would agree with that. Is that both of your answers? Dr. Damico,
that's what I'm coming out with, is everything.
Everything.
That was your answer? Everything? They overstress over everything?
Overcomplicate everything.
Yeah, I mean, everything does become excessively complicated, and it really is very simple. Show up. I mean, as I'm going to quote Dr. Falacaro here, like, you got to be on time and sober every day. You have to be fit for duty. I mean, you got to show up, be there, be early, be prepared. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah. That's kind of like the military. It's like right uniform, right time, right place. Like, if you get those things right, you're good.
Yeah, you have to be fit for duty, show up, and, that's 90% of it.
Right.
I mean, prepare. We've told you how to prepare, do that, show up, and really don't make the rest of it more complicated than it has to be. I mean, it is that simple.
And I want to elaborate, even though it's outside of the rapid fire question. You can fire off a sound effect if you want to.
We're stalling. We're giving
when I
ourselves
say
time.
that, I don't mean that negatively. In fact, the advice I would offer with that is just to relax a little bit. Trust that your faculty knows exactly what you have to do, and trust that if you're not doing that, they're going to let you know. The overcomplicating everything is mainly being inappropriately introspective during your didactic time and your clinical time. Trust the situation you're in and trust the process. And if you do that, then good things will happen, and you'll sleep better at night. And I think that's a good thing for all of us.
This one's kind of controversial. Something that you have to teach that you actually don't agree with in your own practice. It could be anything. You're up there lecturing and you're like, I don't actually do this, but it's on your boards.
This is completely silly. I teach pharmacology of anesthesia, and one of the beloved NCE questions is regarding mechanisms of bradycardia between fentanyl and morphine. And every time I have to teach that, I'm thinking, never in my career I've given absolute bucketfuls of both, and have I contemplated why this patient is bradycardic rather than contemplating I need to treat the bradycardia. And so that's something that I just think is ridiculous that the NCE still loves to hammer. I think that's probably one of the big ones.
The only one thing that just came to mind, I am a rule follower when it comes to medications should and shouldn't be mixed, and the medication you should use for different things. And the one thing that I do have to say that I will tell them, okay, I know I told you always be like on label, but this vial of isobaric bupivacaine says not for spinal use. But we do put it in spinals all the time. And I'm like, okay, in this case, forget that because we've done it 1,000 times and it's really safe. And it's, I don't know a way around that one. I mean, that's just what comes to mind. I'm like,
there are
okay.
probably a lot of CRNAs running around with your voice in their head when they're drawing up that isobaric bupivacaine.
If it says not for spinal, don't do it, except this one time.
Yeah. Like I said, that question was kind of controversial.
That's a great one. You did good with that one.
Yeah. Oh, you're not even ready. You're not even ready. So no pressure, Dr. Greg Collins. This is just your reputation on the line here.
Great.
For your thoracic epidural, name the layers your needle passes through in order.
Skin, supraspinous ligament, interspinous ligament, ligamentum flavum, epidural space.
Skin, subcutaneous tissue.
Oh, gosh.
And either one of you, what about the paramedian approach to that?
Skin, subcutaneous tissue.
Paraspinous muscle.
Flavum.
Then interspinous, and then flavum, or directly to flavum?
Flavum.
Okay, good. See, we're human.
That's a team
Levi.
approach.
I know.
Team approach
That
on
was
that
the
one.
whole purpose of that question, was to show that you're a human there.
Mission accomplished.
Like, what is something that mattered in school that doesn't? Like you thought mattered, but when you got in practice on it, you're like, wow.
Every grade I made on every exam.
I have to agree. Nobody
100%.
cares. I was so obsessed with grades in school. Obsessed.
It's a doctorate degree.
It's, well,
And CRNA.
yeah,
like,
I mean,
you're passing.
embrace the idea. A doctorate is a terminal degree. You can be done at that point, but it is so hard when you're in that moment to say, I must have a perfect grade. I must have a perfect.
That's me.
And that's all fine, but we were all CRNAs at the same time, and nobody knew the difference between, a 4.0 and, 3.5. We all got across the finish line and got there. It definitely does not matter. Get there.
I agree. I've had opportunities in my career that I never imagined happening that have benefited me, and never once in preparation for those opportunities was I ever asked my GPA in CRNA school.
Gold standard test for malignant hyperthermia.
Muscle biopsy?
It's more specifically
Caffeine tensile test.
caffeine halothane contracture test.
Okay.
But yeah, muscle. Yeah.
Okay.
Close.
We were both in the right
You
neighborhood.
get, yeah, you're in the right neighborhood, but it was still been wrong.
I feel like I'm at the college bowl.
That's what I feel like, too.
I'm always just as stressed. Like, okay.
I know. I've been planning this since we knew that we were doing that. I was like, I'm totally going to hit him with that. So I have one more question, and this one is, again, for Dr. Greg Collins.
Fantastic.
I need you to defend something for me.
Okay.
Why the Mac blade?
Thank
Oh.
you. Yes. What is wrong with you?
Well, I will say this. Probably when I was in, and I will also, I should preface this. I was a paramedic before I went to nursing school. And so I'd intubated a fair number of people in austere conditions. I always felt like I was able to move tissue out of the way and see things a lot better with the mag blade. And then in CRNA school, at some point participated in cadaveric training, and it was a specimen that was preserved specimen, but it was basically the airway that was bifurcated, and we're looking at a cross section of the airway. And that curve around the tongue into the vallecula happens to match the mag blade. And I thought, anatomically, this makes a lot more sense. And then Nickie will tell me that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And there's an argument to be made for that as well. I will also, I'm overly defending my choice of mag blade now.
As mag blade users do.
Of course, as we're prone and known to do. Obviously, if you look at any video laryngoscope, what shape is that? That's the tool we're using to bail us out when you can't intubate with a Miller, is you're grabbing a mag blade with the camera on the end of it. Finally, I did most of my clinical practice has been OB anesthesia, and the times that I've had to emergently intubate somebody in OB anesthesia, particularly before video laryngoscopy was a big thing, I dealt with a lot of tissue, and the mag blade has a much wider flange. I can move a lot more tissue out of the way. To me, understanding airway anatomy, knowing what's below the vallecula, knowing how to identify the posterior cartilages, I was pretty good with the mag blade. I still am pretty good with the mag blade.
Okay. Well, there you go. I don't feel that we need to defend ourselves. So
of course.
No, I mean,
that's the way you people are.
Yeah.
Yes, it is exactly the way we are.
You people. That's funny. Well, what an honor and privilege it is to sit here in D.C. with the AANA and these two amazing leaders of education. A huge thank you to both of you for sitting down here with me at AANA Mid-Year.
Levi, I want to say just in passing, and this is obviously to your group of Grade 1 View hosts, but to the group ahead of you as well. When the opportunity came for us to interview to be host for Airway Exchange, I was inspired by what you guys did. And I really listened to those podcasts, and I got some inspiration for that. So thank you for stepping up. I know exactly how busy you guys are, and for you to put yourself out and do this, and I'm extending this to all of your co-hosts and all the hosts from the last season, it's commendable. And thank you for taking that time and opportunity. You're going to find that you're much better for it in the end, even though the work you put into it. So thanks, just from the CRNA community in general, but also from the host team of Airway Exchange.
I have two thoughts on that. I completely agree with you, but two other thoughts. First of all, I think we got to up our Airway Exchange game. I mean, we don't put people on the spot like that. So,
agree.
Wow, great
But
fun.
how often is the student asking the faculty a question?
So fun to turn it around.
Yes.
Right. And I just want to say, we started this episode talking about advocacy, and I think that is truly what you are doing with your Grade 1 View. It is just a strong foot forward for our specialty, for CRNAs generally, and just really helping those who are in your shoes, who are residents, and a lot of our RNs who are thinking about signing up for this. You know, just such a great example of strong advocacy for the kind of exceptional residents and future CRNAs we want to have. So thank you for the work you're doing, and thanks for the invitation to be here.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate that. And my thing is I just want to be another voice that's in the crowd, just cheering us on, moving our profession in the right direction. And so I was given this opportunity, and I took it. I love it.
We need more of you.
Awesome. Oh, I appreciate that. We'll start manufacturing them or something. So, guys, if you got value from this episode, please make sure you're following Grade 1 View and Airway Exchange on Instagram. And please subscribe to Beyond the Mask wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss these conversations and these awesome crossover episodes that are happening. An episode of Airway Exchange or Grade 1 View drops every Tuesday. Now, all 4 of the Grade 1 View hosts will be at AANA Annual Congress in Boston. I don't know about you guys.
All 4.
All 4. So you're going to have all 8 hosts there. And we're planning to connect again with Airway Exchange, except I feel like they're going to be a little bit more geared up now that I put them to the fire. So if there are topics, questions, or anything you want us to ask faculties or the leadership in our profession, send them our way. We'll be asking them so you don't have to. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again on the next one.
Hey everyone, big news! We've launched a brand new Beyond the Mask website, professionally redesigned to give you a better experience. It's easier to navigate, better organized, and makes it simple to find episodes, explore our exclusive series, and access helpful resources for CRNAs, including CE credits and the 1099 CRNA Institute. Check it out at beyondthemaskpodcast.com.